All right, chapter 12 is the chapter on public relations, and I do have to tell you that I have had more students tell me that they are anticipating this chapter and looking forward to this chapter than almost any other chapter they've encountered yet in the book. If you don't know, we do have an entire course on public relations in the Comm department. But in this course, we just take a look at it, we summarize it all into one single chapter. So realize that what you get here will be very abbreviated and merely sort of a glimpse, just to whet your appetite sort of the field of discipline or the discipline of public relations and everything that it entails. So first, as always, let's sort of start off by defining. So obviously, public relations refers to the total communication strategy conducted by a person, a government, an organization attempting to reach out to an audience to adopt a point of view. So it definitely includes the element of persuasion. There are aspects of advertisement involved. In fact, there's been a little bit of controversy over advertisements versus PR and where is the line between them. Now, your textbook does begin with a wonderful history summarizing some different aspects of the history of public relations, of its early start in the 1800s, of Edward Bernays, who's most decisively the father of public relations. And in fact, I think I'm going to show you some information on Bernays earlier, even a recorded video of him, because he was incredibly influential in the work of public relations. So you'll get the history of the subject in a little bit of a different way. So meanwhile, I just want to tackle some other aspects and review some other aspects of the chapter as we go on. So I'm going to switch gears here, give myself some light, and here we go. So fundamentally, when you look at the practice of public relations, it's important to understand it is not a small industry, although I will admit that in recent decades it has begun to decline. So certainly you have over 7,000 PR firms in the United States, been growing since the 80s, progressively slow, really took off in the 50s and the 60s. And the PRSA, you're going to actually go to that website in the learning unit, is a very influential entity that has tremendous power over the discipline or the field and the practice of public relations. So your book explores some different approaches to organize public relations, and here you see the definition of PR by the PSRA. And this idea of two different approaches pretty much has to do with whether or not you've got independent agencies, which are your typical mom and pop kind of shops, and then some of them can get very big and very, influential. But those people they are public relations entities, and they will take clients and then represent those clients on a variety of different issues. Or you can have a large organization that simply has a PR branch, a PR, just like you might have HR in-house or you might have accounting in-house, you can have public relations in-house as a division. And certainly if your company is as large as Hewlett-Packard or something like that, you might want to have an in-house PR division. But many times people will approach PR agencies as those independent shops and pursue some advice and some direction from PR professionals in that manner. Okay, so next we're going to take a look at this discussion of performing public relations, and this is how does the practice work? What do they do? And certainly it is very much receiver oriented in that the PR agent, the personnel, the staff member who's in that industry needs to be very mindful of what the needs are of the client. So something as fundamentally simple as the role of listening becomes incredibly important because you're striving to meet the needs of your particular client. So you have to pay careful attention to that. You can see listed here in the slide several different services that can be offered by a public relations firm. And they do that in a number of different ways. the research that they do, from the messages that they convey. So here's the idea of the research. So this will come in with how they are going to formulate their message, whatever it is that the client wants a new image on. So basically using a lot of empirical research, social science techniques, whether it's surveys, focus groups, and so on and so forth. This research has become a very critical and key ingredient, because what they're doing is they're trying to ascertain what are the needs of the public of the client that they deal with. For example, if I have an automobile dealership who's coming to me and I'm the PR professional, and this this automotive agency wants me to represent them to help them formulate perhaps a new campaign that will help increase their image, make it a more positive image. Perhaps there is a crisis, or there has been some sort of news scandal that this automobile agency needs to overcome. There's a lot of different reasons that somebody might look to hire a PR agency. And so I'm going to do a lot of surveys and focus groups. I'm going to try to ascertain what the public, or what the needs are, so that I can do my forecasting. Then I'm going to convey the message. That's one of the basic fundamental messages or jobs or duties of the PR professional, is to compose something like a press release. And there's different ways you can do that. In the old days, it was strictly text-based, and now they oftentimes can be social media. They can be VNRs, a video news release, and a little bit more in terms of the social media, as I mentioned. Okay, then we have media relations, definitely the publicity arm of a PR. And here they obviously, the PR agency will manage their client, and they work with attempting to obtain publicity in order to showcase the highlights, the strengths of the agency that they are represented. They'll have special events. Oftentimes these can be pretty, what they call a pseudo event, where they're hosting a night of feeding the homeless, and all the employees at XYZ Automotive Club happen to be here at Feed the Homeless Night. And it's really a publicity stunt, as it were. Community relations is encouraging the positive relations between the community and the organizations. Many times, if that relationship becomes to be strained or tense, the organization will hire a PR agency to help smooth over the waters. Consumer relations, very similar to that in terms of establishing positive relations. On a bigger scale, you've got government relations, which is where you work to sort of mitigate some of the pressures that the government, in terms of regulations, may place on an organization. This can be done through political activism or lobbying in an effort to sort of get a climate that is more conducive to the needs of your particular client. Okay, in terms of the internet, certainly that has changed things in terms of the way the typical PR agency works. And now there's a tremendous amount of emphasis on your social networking, social media, your internet image in terms of your web page and things like that. And so PR has gone very much digital in that aspect because of the climate that we live in. There have long been some tension, some pressure, a balancing act in between public relations and the press, and some of that has created different friction, and you can read about this in the book, and it can be a bit controversial. In terms of shaping the image of public relations, certainly public relations has gotten a little bit under fire in terms of people thinking your job is simply to paint over the garbage. All you're doing is whitewashing, ultimately, with trash. And so that's partly where the PRSA has tried to step in and sort of create this watchdog and create ethical standards, and trying to reinstill on the field of public relations an ethical dimension that adheres to a common good in terms of advocacy and loyalty and fairness. And that's an attempt to basically strengthen the image, which was very hard hit by some ethical scandals of the public relations industry. Your book lastly ends as it usually does with a section on alternative voices and talks about some things I think you'll find very interesting. Center for Media and Democracy, I believe they have you go into that website as well, or at least linking to it to give you some information on it. And that's it for now. I will see you online.